right? So since we bring different strengths and resources to the collaboration, we will also benefit or gain differently from the collaboration. The last feature I want to emphasize is that I think good, successful collaborations need to have in them a plan for at least the medium term and preferably the long-term sustainability of the collaboration. It's really important, right? Often when we design new initiatives, we are so focused on getting it off the ground that we don't think what's going to happen to this collaboration 3 years, 5 years, 10 years down the line. And then they fizzle out after, the kick-off excitement. I think it's really important that we have an eye on the medium term at least. And that's important because we know that benefit accrues over time. We don't always see the benefit of a collaboration after year 1 or even year 2. And if we don't have a plan for getting to year 5 or 10, we might never gain the benefit that this collaboration could give us. So these are just 4 of the features that I think are important and that we should evaluate new and existing collaborations on. In the remaining 4 or 5 minutes, what I would like to do is pick one example of an existing collaboration and see how or whether it has these features. Just as an example, because I think we should just be always conscious in designing and evaluating our collaborations against these 4 measures, but also against any other host of measures, right? We have to do so reflectively and evaluate them. On the screen here is a set of collaborations, all of which I think have these 4 features. All of them are Africa-based, consortia-based collaborations between multiple institutions that focus at building institutional strength. So I could have talked about any one of them. I'm going to select the one I know best, namely the one that's affiliated with my own university, the so-called University of Michigan African Presidential Scholars, or UMAPS program. So what is the UMAPS program? It's a residential fellowship program whereby annually here at the University of Michigan, we bring around 15 to 20 early mid-career African scholars, African academics, academic staff from African universities to our campus for a 5 or 6 month long research residency. This program was designed very intentionally to meet the first feature, right? To support independent universities. It was designed in conversation between President Mary Sue Coleman, who 13 years ago when the program was started was the president of our university, and she had conversations with vice chancellors in Ghana and South Africa. And they asked each other, what does the University of Michigan need? And what do the University of Ghana or, a university in South Africa needs? And Michigan says, our president says, what we need is the presence of a broader variety of voices on our campus, and in particular, African voices. Our students, our faculty, our administration needs to hear from African leaders, African academics. And the African university said, well, what we need is an opportunity for our academic staff to get connected into the international research network. So the program was designed to meet those 2 goals. Strengthening the University of Michigan by adding these diversity of voices on our campus and really changing how conversations happening here, strengthening the African partner universities by creating opportunities for their academic staff to be tied into the international research networks through their affiliation with the University of Michigan. We did focus on scarce resources because at Michigan, we had a scarcity of African voices of knowledge on our campus. So that was a scarce resource for us. That resource is abundantly available in Africa. So that was scarce for us, abundant in Africa, and therefore we focused on that. At the University of Michigan, we are fortunate that we have financial resources, economic resources, so we could share those resources by providing the majority of the funding for this program. And that also speaks to the equitability, right? Both parties contribute so that we both co-own this program. University of Michigan provided financial resources, but also other resources. So we had some skin in the game so that our African partners, because they have to release their academic staff for 6 months. And that is a real investment that they make because the teaching that those people would have done now has to be done by somebody else. So they contributed through their intellectual capital, their people capital. And then, yes, of course, everybody benefits. So here at Michigan, we now have changed the discussion and dialogues on our campus by having real voices of authority from Africa talking to our students, sitting in our labs, participating in our seminars, talking to our administration. Our African partners benefit because their staff now have this connection to the international research world. And we all benefit because from this, we have now seen collaborative research projects developing, joint grant proposals, co-curricular activities developing from this. I also think that we have solved at least the medium-term sustainability component of this program. So the program has been running now for 13 years. And if you see in the map here, we've had 180 fellows come through the program thus far. If we want this program to continue, so to have long-term sustainability, that we haven't solved yet. So we're now in the place of having to think creatively of what are we going to do if we want this program to still be active 5 years from now, 10 years from now, or 50 years from now. So I'm just about out of time, meaning that I will stop here. I think my main message is we need to design our collaborative programs consciously. We need to make sure they meet our goals. And two goals I think are really important is we should design them so as not to detract from the individual universities that participate. They have to strengthen those individual universities. But we also have to design them to realize that we can't do it on our own. Thank you very much. I look forward to hearing other discussions.
Thank you very much, Professor. Thank you very much for setting the agenda for the people, for the panelists that will follow you. Thank you for sharing that to have a smart, innovative collaboration. We need to share our human resources, share financial resources, and all of us must benefit together by consciously designing all of this so that we have long and short-term benefit to all concerned. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you most especially for keeping to time. For just on time, you have 27 seconds to go. Thank you very much. So I'm sure the other panelists will follow suit. Thank you. Please, for those who are online and those who are here, there is room for us to ask questions at the end. Thank you very much. So I will bring on board quickly Professor Olumiwa Falaye from University of Lagos. Professor Falaye is a professor of philosophy and currently serves as the director, Institute of Diaspora Studies at University of Lagos. And he will be speaking to us for the next 15 minutes. Professor Falaye, please.
Thank you, the Deputy Vice Chancellor. Although I'm sitting next to you, but you have to hold me to stop after 15 minutes. Can I have my, okay, thank you. Thank you. I will try and stay within the time frame of 15 minutes. First, I would like to especially welcome the director of the International Office of the University of Byroid, who I'm sure is here, Dr. Anim Aineman. Just this morning, we had a meeting, the gateway meeting of University of Byroid and the partners, the collaborators, especially concerning future collaborations and expansion of our current collaborations. This is what we have been doing with the University of Byroid, and it may interest us to note that the collaboration with Byroid spans several disciplines in the university. Today we had a long discussion about nanotechnology, additive engineering, which is what part of the things we are collaborating with them. I want to start by telling the small story. Can I have the next slide, please? It's not moving. Okay. It takes a while. Okay. The IADS, as many people will know, is the acronym for the Institute of African and Diaspora Studies. It was founded in 2017, just 5 years or thereabout, less than 5 years. And I must say that it's one of the smartest collaborations that this university has entered into. To borrow the word of Professor Coates, we just finished speaking now. This is perhaps one of the smartest collaborations entered into. And I will explain why in a minute. In 2017, we needed to establish an Institute of African Studies at the University of Lagos. And we also thought that the best way to do this was to include our brothers and sisters in the diaspora. And indeed, this was what happened. We contacted the University of the West Indies with a strong faculty in diaspora studies, and with our own strong faculty in African studies here at the University of Lagos. We signed an MOU establishing IADS. And of course, this has become one of the major investments into research, teaching, and advocacy ever made. I would not say only in Nigeria, perhaps in Africa south of the Sahara. And of course, we will find out why this is also in a brief moment. IADS was established to conduct research, particularly using the best possible approach, especially with prevailing global best practices. And by 2018, when IADS effectively started, one of the first things IADS did was to commence a master's degree program in African and Diaspora Studies with the collaboration, of course, of the Institute, with collaboration of the University of the West Indies. This has been a major success in the sense that in the last 2-3 years, we've been able to do joint teaching and research with the University of the West Indies. Of course, there are difficulties along the line in terms of a fresh, new approach to collaborative joint master's program. I'm sure those who do this will realize that one of the most challenging things anybody can do is to run a master's program with another university that is thousands of miles away and with different time zones, about 7 hours difference between Lagos and Kingston. But we've managed to push this through, and the first set of students graduated about 2 years ago, and this has been a model that others are willing to copy. We've had requests from several other universities willing to go into joint master's degree or joint degrees, and how we have been able to do this in the last 2 or 3 years. Again, IADS has 3 major tasks. First is research. Like I said, one of the reasons why it was founded was to conduct research. And 70% of what we do in IADS is research. We also teach on the master's program, and we also do a lot of advocacy. Our mantra is that no teaching, no research, no advocacy without funding. And in getting proper and good funding, of course, you have to collaborate with people from wherever they may come from. Our collaboration is not only based in the global north, we also collaborate with universities in the global south. And this has been one of the greatest achievements of the IADS till date. Most people will realize that most African universities look up to the global north all of the time for collaboration, whereas there is a lot that can be done between the global north and the global south, especially if you also look inwards into what your colleagues in and around you are doing. So we have been able to do a lot of work in terms of research with collaborative partners, and that is why it is important to mention here what we have been able to achieve with the University of Byroid. Next slide. Can you change it manually there? Okay. Since 2018, IADS has embarked on research projects that, counting them, will give us about 26, as at today, 26 research projects, all of them funded. And as the last count as well, we have been able to obtain grants from both the North and South up to 1.5 million euros, $55,000, and 49 million naira. What this tells us is that we are not restricted in who we collaborate with as long as we share common ideas, as long as our vision and mission tally with each other. 1.5 million euros, $55,000, 49 million naira. This may sound to be nothing to especially the institutions in the global north. But for those of us in this part of the world, this is a lot of money in terms of research grants that we have been able to get within 3 or 4 years of the existence of the Institute of African and Diaspora Studies. However, that is not to say that this cannot be better. It can be better with more collaborations, with smart collaboration particularly, because this is very important. There has to be what you are benefiting from your collaborators and what they are also benefiting from you. While you wish to have equal partnership in some of these collaborations, but you will discover that this might be difficult as areas of strength and weaknesses are different. We have also received several visiting fellows and scholars from all over the world in the last 3 years. This is also something that is radically new in the South, in the global South. Most of our fellows seem to want to go to the North, and people hardly want to come to the South. But this is gradually changing by virtue of some of the new collaborations and partnerships we are beginning to establish. As I speak, the IADS has received several fellows funded either by some of our partners or funded by some of our friends who are interested in seeing that the change, there's a radical change between flow of academics from only the South to the North and not from the North to the South. One of the ways you can have an enduring partnership is to have people move both from North and South. Otherwise, it's going to end up in a kind of partnership that will be so lopsided and benefit no one at the end of the day. Next slide. Of what use is collaboration if it does not change the landscape of scholarship? And this is one other thing that most people in the global South need to also appreciate. Scholarship must benefit all the parties involved. Otherwise, it will end up collapsing after a short while. To have an enduring partnership or collaboration, it is expected that both sides benefit both in the short term, mid term, and in the long term. And that is why I totally agree with the previous speaker, who is afraid for what happens after existing collaborations end. How do we survive? How do we proceed? Do we rest on our oars after winning 1 or 2 grants and then think this is the end of the world? These are some of the challenges that we might have to face in the future. Shall we move on? We have succeeded in having several partnerships, like I said. One of such is the German Research Foundation through the University of Byroid, which is a very significant partnership and collaboration that we have. Indeed, most of the things we have been able to do at IADS have been because of this partnership with the University of Byroid. Through the University of Byroid as well, we are also part of the European University Alliance, which accommodates several parts of the university other than African studies. You have scholars from engineering, social sciences, medicine, who are part of this emerging European University Alliance. And I think, as at the last count, University of Lagos is perhaps one of the only African universities in this alliance. This started off by virtue of our partnership with the University of Byroid. This is just showing the extent to which such partnerships can expand the horizon of a university. We also have partnerships with the United States Consulate in Lagos, TED Fund, Nigel Institute of Calvin University in America, Street Team Productions, New York. Next slide. Center for Black African Arts and Civilization, Nigerian Institute of International Affairs, Goethe Institute, Global Research Services of the Northwestern University of South Africa, University of Ibadan, Rhodes University in South Africa, Moore University Eldoret in Kenya, Joseph Kizibo University in Burkina Faso, University of Leiden in Netherlands. Indeed, IADS was founded on the model of the University of Leiden. I remember in 2017 when the idea to establish IADS was mooted, one of those who first decided to support IADS was the University of Leiden African Studies Center. I remember that for 3 months, I was in-house in Leiden, understudying how ASC Leiden was run. And that is why IADS has been patterned along the line of the African Studies Center in Leiden. Then, of course, University of Byroid, I've said so much about University of Byroid. Then University of Sussex in the United Kingdom, University of Edinburgh in Scotland, the University of the West Indies, Federal University Bahia, Salvador in Brazil, University of Delaware, USA, Calvin University, USA, and several other partners that we have been able to enter into collaborative agreements. On the basis of some of these agreements and collaborations, IADS has been able to establish fellowships and awards of its own. It will surprise many that, well, maybe I'm wrong, I stand to be corrected. I do not know of any other university in Nigeria that has its own fellowship scheme and program that admits scholars from all over the world under its roof and pays whatever it is for them to stay for 3, 4, 5 months to share ideas with our scholars here in the University of Lagos. We are also the first to establish an award for the best PhD thesis in African and Diaspora Studies. Ramon Bello Best PhD Thesis. The first winner incidentally came from Ibadan, and we received over 30 applications from universities all over the world. This is also a milestone. And of course, all this has been possible because of the collaborative agreements we've shared with several universities across the world. Our postdoctoral fellowships too, we also had 40 applications from all over the world as well as postdoctoral fellows, out of which we could only take 2 applicants. We've had several visiting fellowships from far-flung places like Pakistan, Kenya, Burkina Faso, everywhere. Then we also received Fulbright fellows in-house at the Institute of African and Diaspora Studies. We also have had Carnegie fellows coming in, awarded PhD scholarships, received over 8 short externally funded fellows, and we've also had some of our own scholars go abroad as fellows, especially fellows of the Byroid Academy of Advanced African Studies. All of this have been possible because of the smart collaborations we have entered into. We have entered into smart collaborations for teaching of our master's program, smart collaborations for joint research activities, and smart collaborations for our advocacy activities. And one of the most significant ones for us as an African Studies Institute is the collaboration between the Faculty of Engineering, University of Lagos, and the Faculty of Engineering, University of Byroid on nanotechnology, additive engineering, and a few other things that do not directly relate to African studies. These are some of the benefits the University of Lagos has had from the partnerships we've had with especially the University of Byroid. Next slide. There are prospects, many more prospects from collaborations. This is just the beginning. We intend in the next few years to enter into more collaborative agreements with our friends and partners, both in the global north and the global south. We also intend to have better agreements and better relationships with our colleagues in Africa. And one of the challenges we've had is that most of the time we look up to the north and not to each other in Africa for beneficial collaborations. I want to challenge the International Office at the University of Lagos to encourage partnerships among African universities as well. And some of these partnerships can easily be achieved without too much of trouble than what we currently think. Finally, I want to say that partners can only be beneficial. If you want to run far or go very far, look for partners. If you want to go fast, do it alone. But you can hardly do any productive research work doing it alone at this point. Thank you for accepting and allowing me to stay 3 minutes more than the expected time.
Thank you very much, Professor Muyiwa. I know you are very passionate about this center, and that passion has brought in a lot of good things for your center. Say that your your collaboration, which is collaboration for the future, should be smart. It should not be dogmatic. It should be open, have an open mind. And one of the ways we have done it is by having your thinking about 70% of research and about 20% teaching, and you still find time for advocacy. So you find that your collaboration that will be sustainable, future collaboration, innovative one, must be the one that will improve the quality of life of everyone that's on both sides. Breaking down barriers from discipline. You cannot say it's from chemistry, it's not from philosophy, it's not from English, but all barriers broken down to make collaboration very easy for the future. I thank you very much for your for also keeping to time. It was not too bad. It was not too bad. Next is from University of Pretoria, Center for Human Rights. And to help us for the next 15 minutes is Professor Lloyd, Assistant Director, Center for Human Rights at University of Pretoria. I hope she is available, is ready.
Yes, thank you very much. I am available, Mr. Moderator. Thank you very much for the invitation.
Yes, please go on. You have the floor.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much for this very important meeting. I really appreciate the invitation. I am actually standing for our director, Professor Frans Viljoen, who was unable to make it to make a presentation due to other pressing commitments. And he has asked me to kindly stand in for him. So just to start off, I would just want to mention that the University of Pretoria established the Human Rights and Democratization in Africa program in 2000. And after the establishment, as to date, the University of Pretoria Center for Human Rights has about 12 partner universities across the continent. And these partner universities are Addis Ababa University in Ethiopia, Abomi Kalav in Benin, Catholic d'Afrique Central in Cameroon, Eduardo Mondlane in Mozambique, Gaston Berger in Senegal, Makerere University in Uganda, University of Mauritius, University of Ghana, University of Lagos, University of Nairobi, University of Pretoria, University of Venda, and the University of the Western Cape in South Africa. So you can see clearly that across the entire continent, the University of Pretoria Center for Human Rights has networked with all these 12 partner universities. Now, looking at just the establishment, as I said, it was established in 2000, and the objectives of setting up this partnership was really to create a regional network of African universities and to contribute towards the building of the capacity of the partner universities in the field of human rights and democratization on the continent of Africa. Secondly, the other objective was really to develop a relationship between the HRDA program on human rights and democratization in Africa and other regional master's programs globally. Thirdly, the third objective was really to train competent human rights experts who would then strengthen and influence human rights standards at the national, regional, and international levels, and really to develop a world-class standard of education, training, and skills development on the continent. And I really want to testify to the fact that this objective has been achieved by the program. Some of the activities that the Human Rights and Democratization in Africa program has embarked on include moot courts, conferences, internships, thesis supervisions, inter-university collaborations. And I think the previous speakers, including Professor Andreas Kutsi, have already spoken to some of these innovative collaborations, which the HRDA program has also been doing over the past decade. I mean, now we'll be celebrating 35 years of the existence of the program. The HRDA program produces really qualified and practically trained and competent human rights advocates on the continent who have specialized in the African human rights system. I just want to talk now about the global campus of human rights, which I was also asked to say a bit about. Now, the Global Campus of Human Rights is an EU-funded initiative. It is a global network of over 100 universities based on cooperation between about 7 regional programs in the following capitals of the world. This includes Venice, which is the region for Europe. We have Sarajevo. In Southeast Europe, we have Yerevan, which is the capital of Armenia, for the Caucasian region. Buenos Aires in Argentina is for the Latin America and the Caribbean region. Then with Bangkok in Thailand, catering for the Asia Pacific region. Beirut in Lebanon, catering for the Arab world. And then we have, last but not least, Pretoria, catering for the African region. Now, the universities are globally renowned for their leading role in education, research, as well as advocacy in the area of human rights and democratization. And really, truthfully speaking, it is the largest network of human rights programs in the world specializing in human rights and democratization. Just maybe I should perhaps just take this moment to say a bit about the governance structure of the Global Campus of Human Rights. It's got a Global Campus Assembly, and all universities are part of this Global Assembly, which really is the political body of the Global Campus of Human Rights. Then we have got the Global Campus Council, which makes decisions, daily decisions. It adopts the annual work program. It adopts the budgets for the Global Campus. It has about 15 members, of which 7 of them are permanent. They meet twice per year to decide on budgets and other administrative issues. Professor Frans Viljoen from the University of Pretoria and Professor Chris Bazira from Makerere University represent the Africa region on this council. There's also the Academic Affairs Committee and then the Working Group on Budgets. And the main office of the Global Campus is in Venice. And that main office is managed by Professor Manfred Novak, who is also the Secretary General. The vision, what is the vision and mission? The vision and mission really is to foster generations of human rights defenders contributing towards a world in which human dignity, equality, freedom, democracy, and the rule of law are realized. And of course, in terms of just the networking, methodologies, as well as some of the interesting facts and figures, I think Professor Falaia also was looking at some of the achievements. I just want to maybe mention a few of some of the achievements of this innovative networking and collaboration. So there's the exchange of professors, there's workshops that run across the globe. There's the global classroom. There's also the supporting the Nelson Mandela World Moot Court. There's also an international conference on human rights and democratization. Since its establishment and its existence, the Global Campus has produced over 5,500 graduates, over 1,600 scholarships have been issued, over 1,700 paid internships, and over 200 partnerships and networks. So it's quite extensive in terms of, the impact there. When you look at the governance of the human rights and democratization in Africa structure, this governance structure, it comprises the Council of Directors, which is constituted by the 12 partner universities. Before the COVID crisis, the council used to meet once a year, but now after COVID, the council meets twice per year. That is in May, where decisions are made on issues of dissertations and supervision of dissertations. In December, the representatives from all the partner universities again gather to discuss the second semester. And every year, each of the universities chairs this council. I mean, previously, University of Lagos was chairing, and currently it's the University of Venda, being chaired currently by Professor Jegede from the University of Venda. So in terms of just some of the networking activities done by the HRDA program, and perhaps its impact, there are short courses programs, advanced human rights courses, which are conducted annually by the HRDA program. There's the dissertation supervision. There are also internships. So when the 30 selected students that are selected every year, and it's a very competitive process. At any given time, you have over 300 applicants from across the continent applying to enter the HRDA program, and only 30 are selected. The partner universities have in fact, suggested that perhaps we need to increase the number of students that are selected. And of course, scholarships are also awarded to the majority of the 30 candidates who will have been selected. And the selection process, currently it has almost been closed for the 2022 program. And the deadline for the applications is the 31st of July, so that the students who are selected will then be starting the following year after the selection year. And then, so when the students come to the University of Pretoria, they spend 6 months at the University of Pretoria, after which they go to the partner universities for another 6 months. And when they are there also, they get to do internships, and conferences are also done annually. And the universities, the partner universities participate in these conferences at that level, and which are organized by the HRDA program. One of also the activities that are really key within the HRDA program is the Christoph Heinz Human Rights Moot Court competition, and each of the partners has co-hosted this Moot Court since it started. For me, which I think is really great. I mean, it enhances capacities, it strengthens the individual partner universities, and they also benefit from the participation of the young human rights advocates who are being trained. There's also the exchange of knowledge and the enhancement of staff and resources at each of the partner universities. I would want to hasten to say, I think over 20 alumni of the program have been employed at the partner universities. For me, I think this is one of the key impacts of this partnership that exists between the HRDA program and its 12 partner universities. I think also, in terms of just the impact of the program, is the development of a large pool of human rights advocates to advance human rights and democracy causes on the continents. Hundreds of advocates, human rights advocates, have been churned out who are now working in a number of institutions, in NGOs, intergovernmental organizations, international NGOs, and as well as state institutions, all of whom are alumni of the Center for Human Rights, working together innovatively with its partners. And I also think that in terms of just the embracing of diversity, the cultural and linguistic diversity on the continent, where you have students coming to the Center for Human Rights from all over the continent, who are, from the Lusophone region, the Francophone region, as well as the English-speaking region of the continent, brings together this cosmopolitan body of human rights advocates who are training and then join at the partner universities, who are also spread across the Lusophone and Francophone regions of the continent. Then you have the enhancement, I think, of extensive publications in the African Human Rights Law Journal and Yearbook. And these publications, we have, professors, lecturers from the and alumni from the partner universities and from the HRDA program submitting articles for publication, which is done by the Center for Human Rights. And I think more lastly is also, I think, something that Professor Kutsie mentioned, which is co-curricular development, which is done together, with collaboratively with the partner universities, with the Center for Human Rights at the University of Pretoria. So these are some of the innovative collaborations that have taken place, and also just in terms of employment, most of the graduates, from the Human Rights and Democracy in Africa program, as well as the Global Campus of Human Rights, they find employment in so many institutions. We are looking at perhaps over 80% employment rate after graduating from the HRDA program, as well as the Global Campus of Human Rights. In 2019, there was a big meeting of the Global Campus for Human Rights Assembly at the University of Pretoria in 2019, and so many issues were discussed, human rights challenges on the continent. One of those international conferences on human rights and democratization took place. And so clearly, I think in terms of just the impact, you can see the exchange of information, the exchange of knowledge, the enhancement of knowledge production, as well as the training of world-class human rights advocates across the continent in Africa, but also more broadly under the framework of the Global Campus of Human Rights. At a global level, you have this international body of human rights advocates that have been churned out by the universities in the 7 regions that fall under the Global Campus for Human Rights. I will stop here. I think I've exhausted my 15 minutes, Mr. Moderator. I would want to keep to time, but I'm also available to respond to any questions that may come up. Thank you so much for your kind attention, and thank you so much for inviting the Center for Human Rights to contribute to this very important discussion on universities of the future, looking at innovative collaborations, partnerships, and networks. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Leo, the Assistant Director, Center for Human Rights, University of Pretoria. Thank you for your time and for your presentation. From your presentation, University of the Future, collaboration for the future must be multi-partner universities, bringing various expertise from different areas. And that has made it possible for you, the Center for Human Rights, to have more than 5,000 graduates, 1,700 internship, 200 partnership, and so many things that you have been able to achieve. So thank you very much. I'm sure put as part of what we must have is multi-campuses. Bilateral collaboration will be fine, but from your presentation and that of Professor Falaye, we have seen that many. I think they have about 15. You are telling us now you have about 100, and which means that there will be rotation in governance of this center. And so we are gradually getting some futures of future universities collaboration. Thank you very much. The next member of the panel is from Center for Collaborations in Africa, University of Stellenbosch or Stellenbosch University, and the presenter will be Dr. Nico Elema. Dr. Elema, you have the floor. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Program Director Prof. Famiglioni. It's wonderful to be online with you, and I just want to confirm if you can see me well and hear me, and also the presentation.
We can see your tree, so we can know that we can see it very well.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Now, wonderful to be here, albeit online. If I may also just send my regards to the Vice Chancellor, Prof. Toyin Ogundipe. I was at the International Week 2 years ago in person, and it was wonderful to engage with the university, and also would like to thank the DVC for Development Services on her appointment and also the opportunity to present today. And should I say, all protocols observed. I really thank the university for providing us this platform just to share a little bit on the, about Stellenbosch University and also our Center for Collaboration in Africa. And then specifically, I would like to highlight our partnership with the University of Lagos. I did time my presentation, and I should be within the 15 minutes allocated towards me. So on the screen, you can see a little bit of statistics. We always have to bring up these stats in a presentation, but we have 5 campuses over here in the southern tip of Africa with 10 faculties. But just in terms of rankings as well, there are so many ranking indicators these days. But for Times Higher Education, we are ranked amongst the 250 to 300 category globally. And just in terms of size, we've got about 31,000 students with about 3,500 academic and support staff. And then about 3,500 students, international students, on campus here in South Africa. And in terms of our partnerships, we've got about 290 bilateral partnerships globally. And then in terms of the African continent, about 33. But I will get into that a little bit more detail. And as you can also see from our logo, we celebrated our 100th year about 2 years ago. And it's wonderful to be at the university and also partner with other institutions across the continent. So just a little bit about the university before I get to our internationalization. We really strive to be a research-intensive university that is globally recognized as excellent, inclusive, and innovative. And then where we advance the knowledge in service of society. And I think that is a very important aspect. I think some of the previous presentations have also highlighted that it is important that we, whatever we do, we operate within a global space and a global environment, but at the end of the day, in service of society, be it local or on the continent or international, global where we operate in. So just a little bit on our core themes, and these are very important for us, that we attach and align all our activities, also in terms of our internationalization activities, transformative student experiences, young students, not so young students, come to Stellenbosch or participate in the programs, but it must not just be a transaction, but it's very important that students transform and grow at various levels. Network and collaborative teaching and learning, we are aware that we cannot do it alone, and that is also where partnerships come in. We don't just do research, but it's important that we do research for impact. And then we work with our partners. As I say, we are very proud to have University of Lagos also as a formal partner, and then within our whole network of inclusive networks across the continent, and then globally as well. a employer of choice. We really want to be a university that attract top academics and also professional support staff, and to be, at the end of the day, a thriving Stellenbosch University, and not just thriving in terms of financials, but thriving as in its broad context. So these themes are, really drive and put us the focus for us. Then I just move a little bit towards internationalization. It's important for us that it's a comprehensive internationalization. As an institution, it should be intentionally, and I think some of the previous comments have also highlighted that it should be intentional and very comprehensive and integrated into various intercultural global dimensions for all students and staff. And I think over time, we have really achieved that to a certain extent. So this is just a little bit of information on our student numbers. I indicated, or our international students, but it's a very busy slide. I don't expect you to see all the details, but let me just highlight some aspects of our international student numbers. Many of our students from other African countries come for postgraduate programs. And then if you look at the percentages, 2019, 2020, and 21, we had about 13% of our student population was from other universities across, global, across Africa, and then also beyond Africa. But you can see the numbers declining, and that was the impact of COVID. Although it is still above the national average, in South Africa it's about 8%. So we are still, driving this, our internationalization activities very strong. But you can also see the students from other African countries. If you look at our student or our international student population, it's often more than 50%, and it's actually, in the last 2 years, almost 75%. And it just shows you how the lockdowns and the limited travel from Europe affected us within our activities. So let me focus a little bit on our center, or our international office. And, we've got these 4 or 5 centers. This is for collaboration in Africa, African Center for Student Scholarship, African Scholarship, and also our global engagement, who looks after all our partnerships beyond Africa, also Confucius Institute, and then our services center. But let me, again, focus just a little bit on our Center for Collaboration in Africa, because we've really decided about 5 years ago that we need to nurture and create an enabling environment for not just partnerships globally, but specifically within the African context, because we are an African university within the African continent. And you can see various programs, there's specific focus on African partnership development. It's so unique. We are very close to the African Union Development Agency and hosting a Center for Excellence in Science, Technology, and Innovation, and also various thematic networks in, the Sustainable Development Goals. The Peri Youth Secretariat is in disaster risk reduction, and there are 13 universities across the continent. And also in the water sector, the Ouda Nepat Center, or the Secretariat, which links 20 universities across the continent. So you can see our focus is very much, although we sit in the administrative environment, is creating this enabling environment for the university to partner at various levels. We also support the African Research University Alliance, the ARUA, of which University of Lagos is also part of that. So let me focus a little bit on our African activities, and I love to bring up this slide because it just shows the true size of Africa. I often catch people where they talk about the African continent as a single country, where, for example, the entire United States can very easily fit into about 3/4 of West Africa, and the whole of China can very easily fit into Central and almost Southern Africa. And if you look at the United Kingdom, it's physically the size of Madagascar, which is an island just east of Africa. So this speaks to diversity. What happens in Southern Africa, really, we cannot apply to Eastern Africa or Western Africa. and vice versa. You know, the continent is so large and so diverse that it really creates a lot of opportunities. Personally, I've traveled to 32 other African countries, so I've really experienced this diversity across the continent, and it's wonderful. In terms of Stellenbosch University, we are very active across the continent, and this just shows you a little bit of where some of the activities are, a lot of the Anglophone countries, but also spanning many of the Francophone countries. And let me speed up my presentation a little bit. So out of all those partnership or activities, we have 33 bilateral partnerships which we nurture across the continent and really provide a lot of opportunities for our staff, students, our postdoc fellows to engage and also our emerging scholars with our bilateral partners. And again, it is a privilege to have the University of Lagos also part of this portfolio, and always wonderful to engage, you know, with the colleagues in Lagos. And here, just in terms of short programs, you can see that we've done physical exchanges with our students and, you know, to various institutions, student leadership exchanges, cultural exchanges where we take 15 or 20 students, you know, and engage with partners across the continent, and we also host them. And again, you can see the University of Lagos as part of the student leadership, and I'll elaborate a little bit more on that. So you can see a lot of smiling faces, you know, with these students or emerging scholars often as well. It's wonderful to share cultural experiences and also engage with partners and colleagues across the continent, and always a very, very enriching experience, and then also to host our partners here in Stellenbosch. So let me focus, zoom in a little bit about our partnership with the University of Lagos. It's really been enriching. Yesterday, we saw an in-depth presentation by Prof. Sarah Howie, and also our Vice-Chancellor alluded and highlighted many of these aspects. But we've got the Emerging Scholars Initiative, which is, you know, online training, and a joint school, which is very successful. And the feedback on that has been very, very positive. The African Student Leadership Network, where we really want to prepare and empower the next generation of African student leaders. And it was actually coming back from a trip to Lagos, where the students themselves envisaged this network and said, but why should we just collaborate and partner with certain universities? Can't we create this network across the continent? And you can see it has grown. So it's wonderful to experience this African-led and student-led initiative where our students' leaders really get the opportunity to engage and also have conversations with their peers across the continent. And it's wonderful in the evening when we leave them alone to actually find out the next day that they've gone out into the streets and also shared the fruits of the local environment. But that's students for you. As I indicate, we had the Student Summit earlier this year, again, of which the University of Lagos participated in, and it was a wonderful experience. And then let me just highlight, I've alluded to a little bit to it, but you know, this exchange, you know, there's nothing like a physical exchange between students and also staff. So let me highlight this student exchange, the leadership exchange that we had 2 years ago, 3 years ago. And it was really to foster the relationship between Stellenbosch University and Lagos, cultural exchange and experiences. For many of our students, it was the first time that they've traveled beyond South Africa, and to go and visit Lagos, you know, it's vibrant. It was a very wonderful experience for all of them. You know, we were 5 SRC, the Student Council members, and you can see we visited the Lagos State Parliament. We were able to visit the Oba of Lagos, which was an absolute privilege to experience and also exchange ideas and conversation with him. The Dean of Students, discussions with the Student Council, and also markets and Lagos as a city itself. And again, you can see a lot of smiling faces. The students really came back, and we had comments such as, it's been a life-changing experience for many of them. And I, it's been 3 years, afterwards, but it's, I still meet some of the students, and I cannot stop talking about how wonderful they were hosted at the University of Lagos, and really building on those collaborations. So let me end off in conclusion, and I think I'm on the dot. Again, just this definition of a comprehensive internationalization. You need to have institutional commitment. I hope I've shown that, from Stellenbosch University, where we create a center for collaboration in Africa, and also resources that the university has applied to it. It's important that it should be intentional, it should be comprehensive. I've just added a few components, or showed specifically in terms of Lagos what we do. But it's also to add this international and intercultural and global dimensions within all the programs that we do. It's not just targeted at staff, but also our students. And it's important at the end of the day that they can also come back and engage in meaningful discussions and conversations of their experiences in service of society. So I really want to thank you again, Program Director, Prof. Famiglione. I put up my email address there if anybody would like to engage. And again, thank you for hosting us and giving us this opportunity to present at this wonderful occasion. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Nico, for your collaboration with University of Lagos and for your presentation this afternoon. You have re-echoed the characteristics of future innovative collaboration for the universities that has been presented by previous speakers, which is there must be institutional commitment. It must be intentional, it must be comprehensive, not just one area, global, with intercultural involvement. We must have research, teaching, and innovation. I thank you very much for your presentation. And we hope, post-COVID, we hope to see you again in the University of Lagos and your very vibrant university students who are here before. Thank you very much for keeping time also. I'm very happy to be a moderator today because everybody is just doing well with time. Next, I'm sure the next speaker will be as well. Dr. Heinemann from University of Beirut, Germany, who has been a good friend of the university, will be on for the next 15 minutes. Dr. Heinemann, you have the floor. Thank you very much for coming. You have the floor now.
It's my great pleasure, and I hope that you can see my presentation right now.
Yes, we can see your presentation.
Okay. So thank you very much for this invitation and for the opportunity to present here at this wonderful occasion. And Professor Muyiwa Falaye has already said we had a meeting earlier today, and we are in very close collaboration. And I'm also very happy to see Dr. Ismail Ibrahim here in the audience. We collaborate also very strongly. And it was great fun to just listen to Dr. Nico Elema from Stellenbosch University, who has already at another occasion presented in another context where I was the moderator. So I just want to say hello. My name is Arnim Heinemann. I'm the Executive Director of the University of Byroid's International Office. And I also happen to be the President of S Group, Universities in Europe, a university network that comprises more than 40 universities from Europe and beyond, and among them the University of Stellenbosch. So hello, Nico. It was a pleasure to see you again and listen to you. I would like to talk a little bit today about the University of Byroid and what we think are aspects of innovative internationalization and our focus on Africa. I want to thank the previous speakers because it was very stimulating and inspiring what Professor Coetzee from the University of Michigan shared, and then of course Olumuyiwa Fralaye from UNILAG, and of course our colleagues our colleague from the University of Pretoria. The University of Byroid, very short, is a small university. We have 15,000 students. We are including PhD students, and we are a fairly young university. We are pretty well ranked internationally, and are supposed to be a good location to make students happy and satisfied with their learning experience. We have been engaged in internationalization strategically, I would say, approximately since 2010. We have 7 faculties. You can see natural sciences and engineering, law, business and economics, humanities and social sciences, and a specific faculty of life sciences. We have certain focus areas, and that is very important for internationalization as well, which you can see are distributed between science and engineering, life sciences, and humanities and social sciences. And in the center, you can see that we have an advanced research focus in African studies. And that is somehow at the heart of what I would like to report and discuss a little bit with all of you today. And I'm looking forward, of course, to the general discussion and questions at the end. So the University of Byroid wrote its first internationalization strategy in 2010, and we have just finished our 3rd edition, which is our internationalization strategy 2030. In between, we have also employed external expertise to our internationalization, because there are 2 formats from the German University Rectors Conference. There's one audit process of internationalization, and then we also did the re-audit of internationalization. And so our current internationalization strategy has already moved beyond many of the general aspects of internationalization that so many universities struggle with. And that is also partly one of the mottos of the think tank Academy of S Group, but also of the University of Bayreuth. So we try to work towards a holistic and ethical framework of responsible and sustainable internationalization of global higher education with our partnerships. And I can second all the considerations and concerns of my previous speakers with the importance of strategic collaborations. What we are now focusing on in our collaboration, in our internationalization strategically, is first and foremost integrative data environment and management. Because when you really want to delve deeply into research collaborations, then you need to keep track of data, you have to share data, you have to construct a research environment that is data driven, and we focus very much on that. Second, we have noticed that we really need to focus on responsible and efficient and reliable and transparent communication between partners. That is very important, and that is true for all levels of stakeholders, students, young researchers, senior researchers, but also administrative partners, management, and senior executive leadership. As a third consideration and strategic area of our internationalization, we hope to build a truly open, global campus and build professional services And a glocal here is not a typo. It really means global and local, equally concerned and equally addressed as our responsibility as a locally rooted and responsible institution, but also a globally acting and thinking institution. And last but not least, of course, we focus on sustainable global institutional higher education networks for us in the areas of research and education, including all joint activities, joint PhDs, dual and multiple degree programs, and so on. And how do we translate this into our global structure and our global network? First of all, we have developed what we call our global hub strategy. So we try to focus on destinations. We have established gateway offices, as you can see here, in Oceania, in Asia, and in Europe, in Bordeaux, which is very much also concerned with the MENA region, the Mediterranean region, and we're about to establish an office as well in the US. And of course, this was mentioned earlier by Professor Falay, that we had a meeting today with the gateway offices. So we connect these gateway offices with what we also call our 4 African cluster centers. They are part of a cluster of excellence, which is part of the German Excellence Initiative. But we have also strategic regions or destinations in Latin America, and also, as you can see, research collaborations with partners in Israel. So our African Studies precinct is very strong. You can see that the regional focus on Africa in Byroid goes back to its foundation in 1975. And currently we offer 17 study programs with focus on and strong reference to Africa on undergraduate level, on graduate level, and also on the PhD level, of course. Our Institute of African Studies, which is the umbrella structure in Byroid, has more than 80 members, including around 40 full professors and other academic and administrative staff. We have a strong network of collaborations with universities and research institutions in Africa. So we do cooperate with 68 higher education institutions in 26 African countries. We have formalized agreements with 32 of them. And as I have said, the 4 African cluster centers, which of course we were very happy to establish. It has funding, just to give you an idea, of around 50 million euros. Of course, one of these cluster centers is at the University of Lagos. Another one is at Rhodes University in South Africa. Another one at the University of Joseph Kizerbo in Burkina Faso, and one at Moi University in Kenya. And our cluster of excellence is another example in our understanding of innovative international cooperation. So we have established certain research sections and the African cluster centers, and they all work towards what we call a knowledge lab. So we have at the center a digital research environment that we jointly build in order to be connected reliably for individual researchers, but also between research groups and between the universities. We have defined certain research areas that we share with our friends and partners and academic colleagues. Here you see this: knowledges, arts and aesthetics, mobilities, affiliations, learning, and moralities. And we try to build this into a reflexive a mutual multi-perspective environment. And this digital research environment that we are building, and you see the Knowledge Lab combines this with the different established research topics. It tries to collect the raw research data, generate then certain categories in the data storage. We have specific data curators who provide what I have called professional services to researchers, and then also support them with data mining and of course with network mapping, so to connect researchers who might or might not know of each other, but who work on comparable or overlapping research areas. Well, the University of Lagos is a very strong partner. It was also, Professor Falaye has mentioned it earlier, you joined, fortunately, our endeavor to establish a European University Alliance. We have a close cooperation in the field of additive innovation and additive manufacturing, with a conference coming up very soon in 2022. We have a continuous networking and cooperation exploration with our gateway offices. And of course, you have this cluster center. This fits on one slide, but it's massive. It's strategic, and it's really very enriching, I think, for not only both of our universities, but also other universities who participate in the endeavors that we do. We also have the Byroid International Graduate School of African Studies, which is a PhD program that was established in 2007, when the first cycle of the German Excellence Initiative started, and now, until today, 170 PhD fellows have successfully completed the program, many of whom are PhD students from Africa. We have a very active alumni network. Here you see one of our alumni events that has taken place at the University of Addis Ababa in 2018. Moreover, we have an Erasmus Mundus joint master degree, an European interdisciplinary master in African studies, together with the University of Bordeaux-Montaigne and the University of Porto in Portugal. This is a joint master degree where students spend one semester at each of our 3 universities, and then the 4th semester they can choose between one of our universities, and they also have a substantial research stay abroad, either field research or research related to data collection or library work. And we have just started this very recently, and currently we have a standing cohort of 31 students from 23 countries. And who knows this Erasmus Mundus joint master degree program knows that 75% of these students in such a program have to come from beyond Europe. On top of that, we have the Tanzanian German Center for East African Legal Studies, which is a law program that we have at the University of Dar es Salaam. We have the Byroid Academy of Advanced African Studies, and last but not least, our Byroid Center for Contemporary African Arts. So the Eva Lever House in Byroid holds one of the biggest academic collections of contemporary African art in Europe. Here are some useful links. You will get the presentation, of course, and I hope that I stayed within my 15 minutes, and thank you very much for your attention. It's a real pleasure to be here. You can believe me, I really enjoy that.
Thank you very much, Dr. Heliman, for your presentation. I'm sure some of your presentation has been able to be presented by Professor Muyiwa Falaye, because that was a very good one. It's a very good example of future collaboration that is innovative. And we have found something that is coming up, it has to be just from your presentation, that it has to be integrated. Future collaboration that's innovative must be integrated, responsive, effective, must be open globally, and sustainable. And that has to be intentional for you to be able to have such parameters written in the collaboration. And you have also said that about 68 universities are involved, 28 from 28 countries, and you have about 50 million euro to work with. This is very good. Let me put, anybody with questions should please put it on the chat box so that we'll be able to answer them. And let me create the indulgence of the audience, both here in the room and those of you that are online, that we have one additional presentation from Florida. We have Dr. Scarpinato, a Senior Associate Vice Chancellor, Research Division of Research Florida Atlantic University. He's going to have about 10 minutes to give his presentation this time. So that's a very good one, a good mix. We have a lady that will be a part of the presenters to have a mix of all our presentations. Doctor, kindly have the floor now. Thank you. I'm sure people have not overshoot their time. I'm sure you are going to do that same thing. Thank you.
Thank you for accommodating me last minute. And let me see if I can share my screen here. Okay, I hope you can see that. So thank you very much. So my name is Karen Scarpinato, and I was added last minute to your agenda because we are actually here at Florida Atlantic University currently hosting one of the Carnegie Fellows that Dr. Falaye mentioned earlier. Mularinwa Digboye is here, and he's shown here with two of his colleagues from the University of Ibadan, currently here on a 4-week program, 3 weeks of which are actively here going through a schedule with our research administrator's office. One thing, in addition to what the previous speakers have talked about, I would like to add that not only collaborations on complementary research interests or student and postdoc exchange, but I think there is also a big opportunity here to focus on other areas where our universities can strongly collaborate. And one of those can be found in, I think, the whole research infrastructure. You know, research does not, as we all know, does not happen in a vacuum. Quite a bit of research infrastructure, shared resources. All of us have our own unique infrastructure in place, and we have our own research resources. If we share those, I believe we can be stronger together. And that's really highlighted by the 3 fellows that we're currently having here on campus. They go through a program here that is a mix of learning or exchanging with us how we are supporting research. That is anything from grant writing to entrepreneurial opportunities. They learn about our research institutes here and the database systems that we are using. And we are exchanging what is in existence at their home institution and what we have here to really put together what is the best way forward, not just to do research, but also to support research, because you do need to have equipment, infrastructure, software, any number of items in place to even do research. So we're very glad to have them here. In addition to that research administrative piece, so they are exposed also to learning about Florida Atlantic University. And the previous speakers already talked about their internationalization. So here is just a brief overview of where we are now. Actually, within Africa, 2 of these little teardrops are missing. We have currently interactions with researchers in Tanzania, Zimbabwe, and we added the Republic of Congo and the Ivory Coast most recently. And now we have Nigeria. So we're very happy to expand our collaborations to various African countries. Many of our studies are focused on biodiversity and biomedical health-related topics, but we're very interested in expanding on that as well. Just to give you a little bit of overview of Florida Atlantic University, where I'm at, we have about 30,000 students. That includes our graduate students, and we are organized. Our research is organized in what we call pillars. They're called research pillars, and there are 4 of them at the moment. The Harbor Branch Oceanographic Institute is an institute that's focused on ocean and marine science. iBrain is our neuroscience. The Brain Institute is our neuroscience hub. We have an Institute for Human Health and Disease Intervention, which has some focus in cancer, but also communal diseases, infectious diseases. And we have an Institute for Sensing and Smart Systems, which has 3 different tracks: an environmental track, a health track, and a smart systems track that really connects cities, I would say, and creates sensor networks within cities. So these are our Florida Atlantic University's research areas. The fellows that we're hosting here right now are exposed to all of them. We actually are creating Zoom links to Nigeria as we're speaking, to also include researchers from the University of Lagos in these discussions, to hopefully forge some additional research collaborations. I want to switch gears for a minute here, because one of the really difficult things, I think, is even with us are all now being more in tune in using Zoom and virtual conferencing, is how to get researchers connected. And that's one of the things I think we're in the US at least are struggling with, because often researchers go out and find their own collaborators, and to help them is sometimes very difficult. So what we have created is an online platform that looks something like this, that is project-based. So researchers put their research interest into the topic area they're interested in, and and when you click on one of these buttons and you click on one of these projects that are in there, you get a description of what the project is about, and you see this yellow button there, I want to collaborate. So you can say from wherever you are that, hey, I'm interested in your project here, let's talk, let's collaborate. But we also have, I wanted to talk really briefly about the tags that are there. They are connecting like the people that are on there on this platform with the projects that are in there. So let's say somebody is tagged with big data. If another project comes online that is also tagged with big data, I will get an alert that there's a potential collaborator for me that just submitted a project. So this is our attempt to get really the researchers connected outside of creating Zoom links and creating online meetings, if you like. So this, then you can send an application to individuals, which is shown here. The other thing that is included in this is an expertise database. You will have to tell people who you are, what your interests are, and you can upload a resume, so an expertise database is included. However, this is not just an expertise database, because we don't just want to focus on that. If I always give myself as an example, I'm a cancer biologist. If I put my expertise down, it would be cancer, molecular genetics, and molecular biology, which doesn't tell you at all what I'm interested in working on right now. So we're primarily focusing on the project I showed you earlier. So anybody can submit a project and solicit collaborators and also students to work with him or her on this. And this is just how that looks like in the back end. We do have a back end where you can look how many projects, how many users and all that, just so you can track on how good this actually works. And this is just another example of how the back end looks in terms of themes. Okay, I don't want to take up too much of your time. I know I was a last minute addition to your schedule. I'd be happy to talk more and also talk more about our university. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your inclusion in this last minute time. We thank you for that you are hosting some of our people at your university and for making time to speak to us. This is our second international week. So we thank all the speakers from University of Michigan, from University of from Lagos, from Pretoria, Stellenbosch, South Africa, Beirut from Germany, and now from Florida, USA. This has been a very good presentation from what we have seen generally. Let me see if there are questions on the platform. I know we have one question for Professor Palayi already. Maybe before he finishes answering his question in about 2 minutes, other people will have their question on the platform. Thank you. Professor Palayi, please.
Thank you, moderator. I want to again acknowledge University of Byroid because the partnership between us has been deliberate and intentional. And I also want to say that anyone looking for a good partner in Africa, University of Lagos is the place to go. Yeah, it's the right place to come. For reasons that some of you would have found out by now. I hope Stellenbosch colleagues are not feeling envious about that. It's my opportunity to say that. The question that somebody raised here is wanting to know if our students have benefited from the grants we have so far received from our collaborators and partners. Well, we are only 3 years old or 3 or 4 years old as an institute. We do not have PhD students currently, but we are hoping that by the end of this year, we will have PhD students who can then meaningfully join research teams and apply for grants collectively or even on their own. However, our master students in the last 3 years have benefited in more ways than one. For example, our master students are part of our research teams, and most granting agencies, fund granting agencies insist that you take along graduate students as part of your project. So the mentorship has started with our graduate students. There are also research assistants on several projects, and this is also compulsory to be able to develop a critical mass of young scholars who will take over from the rest of us when we retire. So even if they have not on their own won grants directly, they have been formidable parts of our teams that have won several grants. I also want to say finally that the graduate program at the Institute is still in search of partners because we want to have also joint PhD supervision with our colleagues and partners and the collaborators anywhere. And of course, we are already speaking to big SARS in Byroid University and perhaps University of Edinburgh in the United Kingdom. It pays everybody to have these joint relationships to be able to produce better students for the whole world as a whole. I will serve my answers here and now. But however, I'm sure whoever asks this question is interested in becoming a student of IADS. Otherwise, you will be asking what benefits is he or she stands to derive from some of these grants that we have won so far.
Thank you very much, Professor Muyiwa Palayi, Director, IDS, University of Lagos. There are 2 more questions down here. Dr. Folashade Afolabi, Dr. Folashade Afolabi, want to ask for your question. Dr. Afolabi, please. Unmute yourself and speak. Ask the question. If you are not ready, Enrique Florobosch, are you able to unmute yourself to speak? Enrique Florebosch. Unmute yourself, or if you have problem, you can put it on the chat box so I will be able to see it and read it out for you. While we wait, if you are able to come online, I hope the admin is allowing them to speak. Okay. All right. If I make a little summary, because I cannot recall what everybody has said, what we have heard this evening is that there is desire to have innovative collaborations with all universities all over the world. It's our desire and desire of so many other universities. And that's one of the strong reasons why we have the second University International Week. We have found that what are the features of innovative collaboration? Innovative collaboration must be able to share human resources which are available all over the world, and no university can have everything they need. They need to share financial resources that will benefit all, and all countries can be involved. Also, there is a need to have a deliberate design of these collaborations. It must be smart, and it should involve research, technical support, teaching, and even advocacy. Also, we have found this evening that to have a good collaboration, you must have almost several university, multi-partners university, because we found some of our speakers having up to 100 universities collaborating together, graduating about 5,000, which needs that everybody collaborating know that they may not have the same partnership, but there is no second fiddle. We also find that we have institutional commitment to have this, to be able to have future collaboration. It must be intentional, it must be comprehensive, so that every area of the university is incorporated. And from what we have heard, we must have integrated data. Integrate all our data, must be responsive and open. And also we have found that it's not only research that is very important. There must be research support, making the atmosphere conducive. So not only for the research, but to make it conducive for those who are going to be speaking or to be carrying out this research, to be working together. Because if you are not happy, you cannot have any meaningful. Must share resources, must have complementary research interests to be able to have future collaborative collaboration. From this, I think we have done a justice to this topic, Universities of the Future, and our sub-team of innovative collaboration has done a very good job. Can you help me to thank all our presenters this evening, starting from Germany to South Africa to everywhere? We thank you very much. I also thank those of us who are in Lagos here, especially the technical team that has done a flawless job this evening. I thank you very much. And then hand over to the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Development Services of the University of Lagos. Oh, I think some people knew me from the speakers, but my name is Professor Oluwole Familoni, Deputy Vice Chancellor, Academics and Research. I hand over to the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Development Services, who is the midwife of this program. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Familoni, for anchoring this session very, very well. The final working session of our 3-day International Week celebration. Where do I start? I tell you that we had this planned. We looked forward to it, but I can say that we got much more than we begged for. It truly has been an international week. We have had all our partners, friends, alumni, staff, students join in as we try to reflect on what the future would look like. We have come to terms with the fact that the future actually is now. Maybe we would not have gotten there so fast, but COVID made us, thrust us into the future faster than we were going to crawl into it. But it has not been a bad experience after all. We were inching towards it, but since COVID, we have found the value of technology, enhancing delivery of learning and teaching. And like never before, it has opened up opportunities for us, which will help us do better some of the things that we had started to do. We have also learned that the future is now, because it's about, we see that with technology-aided learning, lifelong learning is the way to go. Adaptability is the new value, with the result that there is nothing wrong in opening up our classes for people to start new careers, even when they are past the middle age. We also have been able to come to terms with the reality that we need to move away from the traditional education, and we need to embrace, it's not that the traditional forms of the content of curricula is completely irrelevant, but we have to evolve it in such a way. I think the guest of honor at the opening spoke about plug and play. We need to design the curriculum and deliver the curriculum with suitable pedagogy in such a way that those who leave our classrooms, whether for the formal degree programs or for the professional certification courses, which we will have to begin to embrace as part of, traditional curriculum and traditional teaching that universities can contribute, those who leave will actually need to be able to be plug and play. We have also looked at what would have to happen if we will really, really deliver effectively and efficiently in this new world order. And we know that administration has to change. We've talked about pedagogical changes. We've talked about curricular changes. We've talked about the unnecessary administration must change. And this evening, we have taken out time to reflect on the opportunities that there are for innovative collaboration, innovative partnerships, looking at the ones that we're already working with and how impactful that they have been, looking at the ones others are working with and learning what new things we can do. We want to say a big thank you to everyone who has made the 2021 International Week of the University of Lagos a huge success. We want to say thank you to our panelists, our speakers, those who delivered keynote addresses, our guests, our special guests who honored us and stayed with us, our panelists, such as we still have online now. I can see Professor Kutsi, he's still here. Dr. Nico Elema, I can see Dr. Capinato, I can see Dr. Heinemann, and I can see Lloyd Coveya. You all have made this a very successful week. You who are out online now, and Professor Falaye, who is on site, you represent the almost 30 panelists and speakers that we have had during the various 52 52 speakers and panelists that we have had over these 3 days. Thank you so very much. I want to say a very big thank you also to the university management, at top of which is the Vice Chancellor, who shares this vision of the internationalization of the University of Lagos. We're creating our university. We're creating our university so that it is an equal partner in the evolution of university systems, generally speaking. And we are so excited. We consider this a moment in history. And for all of us, it is a privilege to be part of it. I want to specially thank the Deputy Vice Chancellors who are here on ground, Professor Fameloni, the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Academics and Research, who just anchored the last session, Professor L.O. Chukwu, and the Registrar, who is the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Management Services. We have the Registrar of the University, Mr. Oladejo Aziz, and we also have the Bossa of the University, who we have been needling since yesterday and telling him the way your pulse must also change and your pulse must also begin to go into the future to drive the universities of the future. Thank you very much, Dr. Lawal. We want to thank all the members of management here. There is Professor Otinwa here. There is Professor Mokwelola Olushakin. And I know that I cannot say enough thank you to the International Relations, Prospects and Partnerships Office of the University of Lagos, that's the engine house that actually produced this international conference, led by Director Dr. Ismail Ibrahim, and of course, at his right hand is the Deputy Registrar, Mrs. Adewunke Ashiwaju. You know, we can talk of having a successful meeting, but how could we possibly have a successful meeting if we don't have the technical support? The most exciting thing, the most exciting fallout, certainly we could never have had this kind of international week. Where would we have all the funds to bring all the 52 resource persons that have been part? Where would we have the funds, everything, to just set up that meeting? But thanks to the support that we get from the tech experts, the people who provide the technology that supports this, and they have made it seamless. It has been seamless from day one. And I need to say to everybody, I am happy to tell you that the proceedings, the proceedings of every single session is already available. The links are available. We can share with you. It's also online, on the university website. And that tells you that this is only the beginning. If you miss any session, you can always take your time to listen to some of the conversation that took place during those times. We want to thank our friends from the media outside of University of Lagos. We know Liberty TV has been here with us throughout every single day. We want to thank the crew from University of Lagos TV as well. They have been here from the very beginning. And of course, to our host, the Arthur Mbanefo Digital Research Center of the University of Lagos, whose facilities we have enabled us to optimally deliver this International Week. We also want to say thank you. The conversation is not ended. The conversation has only started. The universities of the future are emerging. The conversations have only just started, and I am hopeful that we will continue to take it further. We have learned lessons, we have started to see the new and emerging areas of action that we must take. In fact, we have been challenged to make this a national discourse, and we will look at exploring that. We also have been challenged to provide the leadership even across the West Africa sub-region, because we had the Association of Africa Universities represented in the course of this meeting, and we're going to begin to look at that. So once again, I want to say a very, very big thank you to everyone. I want to say a very big thank you to the governor of Akwa Ibom State, who was our special guest at the opening ceremony and who was well represented by his the secretary to the state government. We want to thank Professor of the Borno State University, who has remained online for the last 3 days. And that's also another one university that University of Lagos has a partnership with. We are in a mentoring role with the Borno State University, which is a relatively new university in the Nigerian setting. We may not be as old as the Byroids of this world, but in the context of Nigeria, we're very old. We're almost 60 years. So relative to universities that are 2-3 years old, we have a lot to offer. So once again, I just want to say a very big thank you. See you all in 2022 at the formal International Week of the University of Lagos. But between now and then, see you as we continue to take the conversation forward. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.